Feliz Navidad, mi gente. I'm recording this on Christmas Eve, La Noche Buena. Our plans start in just about an hour. We're going to crank out this episode. It'll be short and sweet as we go over our trivia questions from the previous episode. I'm sporting here the t-shirt that was made for this Encuentro Navideño in memory of El Papá de Alfredo. You'll see here that I've got a güiro on my shirt, which is what he used to play in Las Parrandas. We got an excellent request for our next episode. We're going to go over some of the common songs that you would hear in Las Parrandas for people that are here in Puerto Rico when you have that experience of being at those parties and everybody's singing. There's no other moment where you quite feel so much like the other, so much like an outsider when everyone's enjoying and singing along and you don't know any of the songs. So we got a beautiful request to go over some of those canciones de la parranda. I've learned quite a few of them just in the past 2 years of going to different parrandas while Alfredo was playing. So we're so excited to do that episode. That'll be coming out next week. But today we are reviewing the questions and answers and some of the really, really good vocab that came up in last episode, episode number 36, about basic trivia so that you could practice responding in Spanish. As always, I recommend that you view today's episode on YouTube. You can have it up, be doing your thing, run and check the screen when I'm going over vocab, because when you don't have a visual, nothing sticks in your brain. The link to view today's episode is right there in the podcast description. Let's get into it. Ok, la primera pregunta fue, ¿en cuál lado de la carretera uno puede guiar su vehículo? Okay, on what side of the street, what side of the road can one or can you drive your car or your vehicle? And that is what I want to go over here. The word for to drive that's used in Puerto Rico is guiar, okay? The only time you're really going to see conducir is in la licencia de conducir, or if you go to SECO, which is the Puerto Rican DMV, any processes related to driving would be called conducir, obviously in that formal setting. But for everyday conversational talking about driving somewhere, you use guiar in Puerto Rico. Make sure you write that down or you sign up for a Patreon so that you can review the vocab that I'm going over in today's episode. Pregunta número 2. ¿Cuál de estos proviene de la raíz de la planta? Okay, la raíz. Giving you a little visual here. My visual learners will appreciate this. La raíz is how you say the root in Spanish. In plural, that would sound like las raíces. Las raíces. It'll be on our flashcards from today's episode, all right? So which of these come from the root of the plant, la manzana, la zanahoria, o la lechuga? Please do not pronounce the H in zanahoria. You will not be understood, okay? La zanahoria is obviously the answer there. That's the one that comes from the root of the plant. Fácil y sencillo. Moving on. Pregunta 3. ¿Qué tienen en común una bola, un globo, el planeta Tierra y una esfera? All right. What do these have in common? A ball, a balloon, the planet Earth, and a sphere. They are all round. Son todos redondos. Exactly how we'd say it in English. They are all round. We just have to make sure that everything's plural here, right? Son todos redondos. Redondo is round. Espérate. This is how this would sound in PR, right? This would be espérate, but it sounds like espérate. ¿Por qué el planeta Tierra? Why is it masculine? Why is it el planeta? In case we have not gone over this already in the podcast, something very good for you guys to know is that there are words in Spanish that are Greek in origin and end in ma, pa, and ta, and are masculine. Okay, they were taken from Greek. They are masculine in Spanish. Look at the list that I've got here. El sistema, el tema, el problema, el idioma, el mapa, el planeta, el cometa. Okay, we've got ma, pa, and ta endings that were words that were Greek in origin and stayed masculine when they came over to Spanish. However, this is not every single word that ends in ma, pa, ta, right? You know that because you know la cama, right? Bed is feminine. La ropa, that's a pa ending, but it's feminine. La pregunta, that's a ta ending, but it's feminine. All right, doesn't apply to everyone, just words that were Greek in origin. The biggest group are the ma endings. Those are worth studying. Look at this list. el sistema, el tema, el programa, el idioma. That's a common one that I hear people get wrong. Language is masculine, el idioma. Climate is masculine, or the weather, el clima. El programa, you would use this for a program, also it's used for TV shows. El programa, el aroma. Guess what that means? Aroma. El trauma, guess what that means? Trauma. El drama. El fantasma means ghost. Okay. There's a huge group of the ma ones that are masculine. It would be worth getting those down. Seguimos. Pregunta 4. Nombra los 4 puntos cardinales. This is the first time that I learned how to say cardinal directions. It's cardinal points in Spanish, los 4 puntos cardinales. If you don't know these, you should. Okay, learn them now. And in Spanish, I said this originally going around the compass, like if you guys learned in school, never eat shredded wheat. The first time when I responded to Alfredo in the podcast as we were recording, I said norte, este, sur, oeste. And he said, normalmente decimos norte, sur, este, oeste. And I was like, so do we, north, south, east, west. But I just went around the compass instead of doing it the way we do it in English as well. We typically say north, south, east, west. That's typically the order that'll be done in Spanish as well, if you were going to name all 4 of them. Norte, sur, este, oeste. Norte, sur, este, oeste. Pregunta número 5. ¿Un depredador caza otros animales o se mantiene verde todo el año? Un depredador caza otros animales o se mantiene verde todo el año. A predator caza otros animales o se mantiene verde todo el año. Did you hear caza en vez de caza? Could it be because they sound exactly the same in Latin America, where this language comes from? In Spain, however, these two are not pronounced exactly the same. This is casa and this is caza. They do their Z's and soft C's, ones that would be like cielo, right? Not like casa. They don't do ta, sa. Their soft C's and Z's in Spain are pronounced like THs. So where the language comes from, these two do not sound the same, casa and caza. But in Latin America, they absolutely do, because a Z is pronounced like S in Spanish, right? So if you're in Latin America, excuse me. Casarse, good to go over these. Casarse is to get married. Here's an example. Ellos se casaron el año pasado. They got married last year. Cazar, or as it would be in Spain, cazar, is to hunt. Cazar, or caza with a Z, is to hunt. Un depredador caza otros animales means a predator hunts other animals. Did that one trip y'all up? I had a feeling it might trip you up. I knew as soon as we were recording that this would be one that I would be going over in today's episode. Pregunta número 6. ¿Cómo se llama la persona que vela por la seguridad de los que nadan en la playa o en una piscina? How do you call, or what's the person called that looks out for the safety of those who swim in the beach or in a pool? Swim at the beach or in the pool. Okay. The answer was salvavidas, el or la salvavidas. This would be one that does not change. Obviously, it's like, looks like it's plural and feminine, but you would say el salvavidas if you're talking about a lifeguard, a male lifeguard. You'd say la salvavidas if you're talking about a female lifeguard. As I mentioned in the podcast, this is also the name for a life jacket. I've typically just heard it as el salvavidas here. You might see on the screen. It's also el chaleco. They might hear that, which makes sense. Just like we would say life vest, chaleco is vest. Okay, so el chaleco salvavidas, your life vest or life jacket. Okay, exact same word. Both things, the person and the device that keep you from drowning are your lifesavers, salvavidas. The other word that I wanted to go over, and I already translated it when I was translating the question, but velar por. Velar and velar por are used a ton in Puerto Rico. I don't know, maybe this word had come onto my radar before coming here, but it's absolutely something I hear all the time here in PR. If you saw on TikTok, I also posted it on my Instagram page. I recently did a video about phrasal verbs in English. If you did not see that, go into the link of the podcast description, find my TikTok, or my Instagram and look for the video that says phrasal verbs right there on the cover. I just did it in the past week or so it'll be easy to find if you are anywhere near listening to this around Christmas 2023. In this video on phrasal verbs, I went over the fact that in English, we have verbs that exist in phrases. Things like to get up is different than to get, right? You can't say I get at 8. It's I get up. You can't say I go the stairs. You have to say I go up the stairs. So a verb in English that exists as a phrase, it's a verb plus a preposition. Prepositions are your things like to, for, from, with, about, also your directional words, up, down, etc., across or over are also prepositions, okay? So the idea is to look is different than to look after. To watch is different than to watch over. Look at the example they gave. Me tranquiliza saber que alguien vela por ti, right? It reassures me to know that someone's watching over you. Sorry, this little progress bar is kind of covering it. That someone's watching over you. This sentence would sound completely different if you took out the word over. It reassures me to know that someone's watching you. Sounds a bit creepy. Watching over is different than watching. Looking after someone is different than looking at someone, right? One's kind of creepy. One is implying you're taking care of somebody, correct? And as it is a phrasal verb in English, it is in Spanish as well. You have to use velar por when you're trying to express specifically to look after or to watch over somebody. You said, who's the one looking out for, looking after the security of the safety of those who are swimming in the ocean or the beach, to look after, to watch over those who are swimming. That would be velar por. This Spanish phrasal verb will be on the flashcards that are available via our Patreon page. Velar por, to look after or to watch over. Pregunta número 7. ¿Cuál es la palabra para un edificio que parece estar cerca del cielo? What's the word for a building? Un edificio is a building that seems to be close to the sky, seems to be touching the sky. And the answer is un rascacielos. Un rascacielos is a skyscraper. Rascar is to scratch, right? Or scrape, rasca. So it's saying the same thing. It's almost the literal translation into Spanish from English. However, we don't say the skies scraper. We keep that singular. They use it in plural, un rascacielos. Pregunta número 8. ¿Cuántas pesetas hacen 75 centavos? ¿Cuántas pesetas hacen 75 centavos? Las pesetas, muy importante para saber en Puerto Rico. The peseta is how you say quarter. I also went over that in the episode, okay? Peseta is a quarter. So obviously 3. Pregunta número 9. Algunos huesos protegen los órganos del cuerpo. ¿Qué protegen los huesos que están en la cabeza? Algunos huesos, we've got bones. Really satisfied to find this graphic right here. Love that guy. Algunos huesos, so some bones protect the organs of the body. What do the bones that are in the head protect? Okay. And my answer when we recorded this was el cerebro, but Alfredo saw on the other side of the card that it was supposed to be both the brain and the sensory organs, okay? El cerebro y los órganos sensoriales. So the brain, el cerebro, y los órganos sensoriales, and the sensory organs. Finalmente, pregunta número 10. En el cuento de hadas, ¿en qué se convierte el sapo que recibió el beso? I just realized in the transcript that this is written as recibió el peso. He did not receive $1, okay, or the weight. It was a beso, a kiss. Okay, so in the fairy tale, what does the frog turn into? The frog that received the kiss turn into. Let's go over a couple of the vocab words that came up in that question. El cuento de hadas is a fairy tale. Cuento de hadas, fairy tale. So las hadas are the fairies. Cuento is a story. El sapo is toad. So I would have translated this using la rana because I know that is frog, but this is why I don't translate the questions. You have a Puerto Rican translating these questions from English into Spanish to know how it is that these questions would be asked a lo Boricua, Puerto Rican style. Alfredo is the one that looks at them in English and comes up with them in Spanish. So this is the word that he chose, el sapo en vez de la rana. Okay, know that a sapo is toad, rana would be a frog, but more so in Puerto Rico, more than you would even hear maybe rana, besides the saying sana sana colita de rana, you would hear more about los coquilles. Los coquilles. This is taken from coquipr.com. Los coquilles, which would be los coqui, el coqui in plural. There are 17 species of coquilles, although 3 of them have not been seen for various decades. These species are from the genus, that word, that means free fingers. This is so interesting. I did not know until I read this. Since this group of frogs don't have membranes in between their fingers, they don't have the webbed fingers. This characteristic indicates that these species evolved towards habitats that were completely land-based. Another characteristic of these frogs is that they don't lay their eggs in water, nor do they go through the tadpole stage. Here's our knee, which we went over in that bunny series. Their eggs are usually laid in vegetation, although there are some species that lay them underground. And from these eggs, little frogs are born. They don't go through the tadpole stage. This is so interesting. I had no idea. Thank you, Coqui, Puerto Rico. These adaptations have liberated them, have freed them from the dependence on bodies of water to go through this tadpole stage. See how much you guys learn here on Learn Spanish at Lo Boricua podcast. A little bit of science, a little bit of matemáticas. Got to know that 3/4 makes 75 cents. You know what I'm saying? This is a complete educational experience. Muchas gracias, como siempre, por escuchar el episodio. Thank you for subscribing to my channel, for liking this video so that other people can find it as well. Be sure to check out our Patreon page so that you can get the transcripts of our conversation episodes, as well as the flashcard decks that include all of the vocab that I go over in these class episodes. Que tengan una feliz Navidad y nos vemos en el próximo episodio.